Top in the very wet top 10 shootout yesterday with Craig Lowndes alongside Scaife and Larry Perkins start out of row 2.
Paul Radisich and Glenn Seaton out of 3. David Bernard and Stephen Johnson, the Queensland 4 teams, out of 4.
Then Jason Bargwanna, Mark Larkham share the 9th and 10th, and then Russell Ingall, Brad Jones, Marcus Ambrose, Cameron McConville, John Faulkner and Paul Morris in 16.
Paul Wheel and Stephen Richards, Anthony Trapp and Paul Romano round out the top 20. Then it's Stephen Ellery and Tony Longhurst who's driving for Rod Nash this weekend, Thomas Mazera and Todd Kelly.
Further back in the last two on the last row, Greg Murphy and Rodney Forbes. 26 cars in total, and very weird conditions yesterday, in particular for the shootout where the place was really drenched.
Just had a word, guys, to Campbell Little and the team from Stone Brothers Racing. It's a pretty similar message between all the teams to the drivers. The simple answer is, don't crash it here at the Gold Coast this weekend.
Yeah, I think that'll be a pretty popular message going around the cars because it's very tight logistically, Neil, when you think about it, because these cars are going to be loaded, I think, midweek. So if you have a big shunt, you're really behind the 8 ball.
That's right, and in years gone by, this event has preceded Bathurst, and so this kind of pressure has been prevalent here in the past. And having said that, there's still been plenty of them shoveled into the back of the trucks after the weekend. So the difficult thing, of course, is that it's all very well in the cool, calm confines of the transporter to go through the theory, but having been in there, once the green light comes on and that chip is activated in the mines, these guys want to be the first across the line.
The first chicane's always the place, and first lap, first chicane, that's where all the carnage has happened in years gone by, hasn't it?
Street circuit looking magnificent on the Gold Coast. 36 degrees is the track temperature, as we take some wonderful shots overlooking this circuit. 4.5 kilometres the distance as it weaves its way in and out of the many condominiums and hotels. So characteristic of Surfers Paradise. It's a wonderful place to hold a race meeting. And the V8 Supercars really turn it on here.
The times that were recorded on Thursday in the opening practice session here were very quick. So I'd expect that in this particular race we're going to see some fast times. Craig Lowndes on board with him. He's on the front row of the grid with Garth Tander, and a welcome return to form. There's Garth on Craig's left.
Just an indication of how conservative the Gibson team have been this weekend. They're running the first car, not the car they ran at Bathurst. They want to keep that one in good trim for Pukekohe in 2 weeks' time. Big field of V8 Supercars. There's the Rat, the man who's won here in 1999 and 2000. Can he do it again this year? Revs rising, only moments away from the start of the V8 Supercar Challenge. They're racing. Garth Tander, the pole man, gets the power down a little bit better than Lowndes. Lowndes well positioned. Ducks in behind the Valvoline Cummins Commodore for the run down toward the chicane. Scaife started well too.
Mark Larkham got buried off the start line, dropped right back through the pack, and that certainly caused a bit of chaos in the midfield.
Yeah, Larry got a really bad start as well. He went backwards pretty quickly.
Just hope everyone can get through here cleanly. This opening hectic lap. Everyone's all pumped up, looking to get a good track position as they thunder down the Gold Coast Highway toward turn 3. Hard on the brakes into Cellular 1 turn, just in front of the A&A Hotel.
Oh, look at this down the inside. Stephen Johnson. Oh, Stephen. Oh, no. Brad Jones. Oh, dear. Just when things looked like they were turning around for Brad Jones. I mean, oh, dear.
That's what always happens. A bit further down the pack, you got so many cars elbowing each other.
Stephen went in there with huge pace and locked the rears, got all crossed up, tagged the fence on the exit. Bradley had absolutely nowhere to go. This is the battle for the lead. Tander and Lowndes. Scaife still in position off the grid, so he's third. It was a pretty good clean start. Certainly they got through those 2 chicanes in the opening lap very well. It's so awkward into the first turn here because of the gentle curvature to the right into that first chicane. And if you're side by side with somebody, you've got to yield. You've got to go line astern, or the cars just won't go through there.
Look at Lowndes here. Plenty of pressure on board the Ford. Locks the rear brakes as they come down toward Falcon Turn.
You have to say, in qualifying yesterday, it was Craig looked like he was really, really trying very, very hard. I think there's a lot of pressure on Craig at the moment. When you think about the investment in him and everything, it's a heavy load to carry.
Out of the Honda hairpin for the first time, runs it right across the curves. We go on board with Lowndes.
And he's torturing Garth. You can see he was using more of the space across the top of the apex on the turn 12 ripple strip there.
Flash past main main straight. Speeds well in excess of 200 kilometres an hour. We take the forward in-car camera. You're right with Craig Lowndes. Look at the back of Garth Tander's car dancing under the
Brakes. Here there's some debris on the
track at turn 3 after that collision.
If Lowndes gets a good run on the back straight going up the Esplanade, he'll be reasonably strong into turn 5, but he's going to have a good clean run. It looks like he's got a little bit more pace in a couple of places. That's him on the radio. Garth just avoiding some bumps. There's the debris flag to the right. This is as a result of the Johnson-Jones contact exiting 3.
Order at the moment is Tander, Lowndes, Scaife, Radicic, Larry Perkins, Glenn Seaton, Barguana. Ingles in there too. Let's have a look at the replay of this incident, Neil.
That was pretty ambitious.
Yeah, and right at the last minute, Stevens' rear brakes just lock up. Remember, everything's cold. He hasn't got full tyre temperature. The brakes are not up to speed. And Bradley had absolutely nowhere to go, and the chaos there included Marcus Ambrose, Cameron McConville, Faulkner was there. This is the overhead and crunch.
Ambrose was lucky to avoid it as well, wasn't he?
They're all scrambling for first gear, and Faulkner looked like he was a beneficiary of all that.
Bradley Jones, he must have killed someone's brake.
Hero to zero, isn't it? Came within 2 seconds of winning the V8.
Lowndes.
1,000 and problems here for Craig Lowndes. Started off the front row, and Gibson Motorsport Ford is sitting. Now, is he going to get it going?
Can't get it back to the pits at all.
We'll just see if we can hear a radio message here. Lowndes is putting it away. He's
Okay.
I can tell by the way the thing's wobbling. He's had some sort of contact with something. There's some damage, I'd say, to the front of the car. And we've got the number 18 board there as well.
Was running up as high as 4th place. So the Rat is not going to repeat the success he had here last year and in 1999. So 2 Fords out in the space of 1 lap. So Garth Tander, Mark Scaife, Larry Perkins. It's Commodores 1, 2, 3 at the front of the grid now. The fastest of the Fords is Glenn Seaton in 4th place.
Just had a word to Alan Heaphy and the guys here at Gibson Motorsport. They say Craig didn't make contact with anyone else, but he has made contact with a wall. There's damage to a tyre rod end, so that's the end of it for him. Brad Jones should be coming in very shortly. The Aussie Mail team tell me there's damage to the front right. And we'll have a close look at it.
Yeah, just while you were talking, Rusty, we just saw a replay, and Lowndes has clipped his left wheel on the concrete wall. That's damaged the steering. He's out of the race. Yeah, let's have a look at this again. Look at this. Bang, right there. Just goes to show when you're trying to thread the needle around here, Neil, the cars don't have a huge tolerance for any sort of impact.
Well, not that kind of impact. That's pretty severe. You can tell by the thud in the background on the replay there. Those concrete walls don't shift. And that's the thing about street circuit racing. You've got to work to find tolerances. If you step over the mark, you're basically out of business.
It's a real challenge, this circuit, isn't it, for a driver, Neil? When you think about the idiosyncrasies, the manhole covers, the big changes in camber, it's a real challenge.
Very different kind of racing to, say, an Eastern Creek or a Phillip Island or other conventional road racing circuits like that, Mark, and they give you a fabulous buzz to race on, but you've got to be so careful. You know, you're exactly right. There are manhole covers here, yellow flag flying here as well. So Garth leads from Mark. Look, actually, we've got quite extensive margins between these guys at the moment. A lot of blind corners, which is one of the things that's a real feature of this track. In this complex up through turns 9, 10, this is coming up to 11, and then for the left hand at 12, you approach an awful lot of these corners not knowing what's on the other side.
We saw that, I think it was last year.
Mark, 9 laps to go. Look after the brake.
Yeah.
And that's the big message here. Look after the brakes. More chaos. This is on the run to the Esplanade.
Rodney Ford.
No, I think that might have been Romano.
Oh, Romano. And
It's Thomas Mazera driving the Delta Europe car this weekend. So Thomas, unfortunately, getting caught up in that. But look at this, Garth Tander. Amazing after a season he's had.
classic, isn't it?
Valvoline Cummins team really have lost their way in terms of the technical direction, but all of a sudden here he's right on top of the pile.
Yeah, but it does emphasise the point, Mark, and this is something that's a recurring message if you talk to people up and down the lane, as I know you do, that it depends an awful lot on track position. If you actually take these cars in isolation, probably the top 10 cars will be lapping in almost exactly the same lap time, but if you start out with track position, you're in good shape. Greg?
Well, Brad Jones has come into pit lane, and you're not a happy camper right now.
No, not really. I mean, you know, we're not racing for a sheep station out there, and I got hit up the arse by Ambrose and pushed into Stephen Johnson. It's just done a heap of damage to our car for no reason. I mean, it's frustrating. We got a good qualifying spot, and, you know, it just, you know, what a day.
There he is, guys.
Yeah, what a day, all right?
he's got every right to feel sorry for himself. Isn't he, really?
The We'll be racing for sheep stations in a couple of weeks' time. So the order at the moment, Tander, 1.3 seconds in front of Scaife. Scaife's going to try and hunt him down, though. Grant Seaton, the best place of the Fords, in 4th place. Murphy and Kelly are doing a brilliant job from the back of the grid, up to 15th and 16th place respectively. So watch the Kmart cars come charging through. And there's going to be plenty more action after the break when we return to the streets of Surfers Paradise, the Honda Indy 300. The V8 Supercars in action right now. Welcome back to the streets of Surfers Paradise, just in time to see Larry Perkins get it all wrong at turn 3, down at Cellular 1 turn. And he gets back into the action. You can see there's the oil flags being shown there, debris or a slippery substance is on the track.
And a yellow flag flying there. You can see the garbage on the road there, just on the exit of turn 4, and also the yellow flag, no doubt, for the Thomas Mazira car that's parked to the left.
Tander's quickest guy on the circuit at the moment, 54.6, and next to him, quickest is Ambrose, who's come right from the back and is right behind his teammate.
So that's a shame for Larry, who was running as high as 3rd place there. Oh, problems here for Paul Morris. We hear that Paul Morris and Stephen Ellery have both been warned by race officials for curb hopping, I think. Let's have a look at this again. Just going in a little bit deep. Tend to lock up the brakes a lot on this circuit.
Yeah,
now.
a lot on the rear as well.
Well, what happens here is that if you get stuck into the brake pedal very aggressively, you make enormous front brake temperatures, and so the fronts tend to go away, which gives the impression that
the rear,
all of a sudden, in terms of brake balance, you've got more rear percentage bite than you would otherwise have. And that's what the comment was about on the radio to Mark before. Just 9 laps to go. Think about the brakes. Be careful of the brakes. This would be the hardest circuit we go to throughout the year in terms of brakes. Big, long, hard, hot stops. Repeated pressure on the brake pedal.
Order at the moment, Tander, Scaife, Seaton.
Now moves up to 3rd. Jason Bargwiner in 4th. An inconsistent day. Good to see the 2 Valvoline Cummins cars well positioned at the moment. Russell Ingall, David Bernard and Marcus Ambrose, the Sue Stone Brothers Fords, running 6th and 7th. Bargwiner's also had a warning for curb hopping, so the officials
We're watching pretty closely, making sure these guys aren't pounding those curbs too much.
They're in particular focusing on the Foster chicane up at turn 7, where there is a time advantage to be gained if you can try and straight line that area. So they're jumping on top of anybody that looks like they're using too much real estate.
The team cars.
Oh, now the Stone Brothers are going to be pleased about that, aren't they, really?
I'd like to have a look at the faces of Ross and Jim.
Yeah, I was going to just say exactly.
Last thing you want.
Dear me.
There's been a lot of mutterings about how the Ford teams have a propensity to take each other out. There's a good example of that.
I think the classic was Dick and JB down the back straight.
Oh, we've seen a few. Let's have a look on the Honda Indy replay. This is from on board Marcus Ambrose's car. Just punches it out at turn 4 and hits Bernard.
Now, what do you call that then?
A mistake, I'd say. No, I'm not going to say it. I'll end up in trouble saying things like that.
Let's have a look at this from the chopper. See, just gave him a nudge. That turned him around.
That was so close there, and Larry just sneaks by.
Turned him around 180 degrees. They were facing each other. I can imagine what the expressions would be like at that little moment in time.
Well, Paul Morris, you're out of commission here. You've got a black flag for allegedly curb hopping, but you've elected to park it. Tell us why.
Oh, it's such a short race, and basically I made a mistake and went straight through the chicane. I elected to do that instead of hitting the wall, and they give me a black flag for it. I didn't make up any time or anything from it, so there's no point in risking the car, really.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks.
On board with Marcus Ambrose. He started 13th. He's up to 7th as a result of that tangle with his teammate David Bernard. So Marcus Ambrose really on the attack here. He drove here in the Young Guns race last year in the Honda Integras. We've just heard that Stone boys have been on to Ambrose, just telling him or reminding him, keep it clean. There's no Shell Championship points on this one. We've got to get to Auckland and we've got to get there without damage. Here's the battle for the lead. 2.2 seconds now. So Garth Tander showing good speed, 1:55.36 and 55.34 for Scaife. So he's matching the pace of the Holden Racing Team driver. And a big gap back to Glenn Seaton, 6.5 seconds. He's the best placed of the Fords so far. Fighting a bit of a lone hand here, actually, because it's Commodore, Falcon, then Commodore, right back to Paul Wheel in 8th. see.
Quite spread out, actually, Mark, isn't it?
It is,
Unusually
yeah.
spread out.
The problems here, flat tyre.
The car was smoking before as it went by our commentary point, and that's why left rear tyre has deflated, so there might have been a guard rolled down on that tyre.
These guys put in an amazing performance at
Mount Panorama until that collision with Simon.
Let's have a look at this from the...
That's not very comfortable, is it, Neil, when it
That
starts
is-
doing that and you're going pretty quick.
That's a very gentlemanly way to say that, isn't it? Not very comfortable.
Yeah, really.
Shades of...
Dry cleaners.
Off the wheel as well.
that was a real shame.
We're
They're
all
running
ready
as-
for you.
running
We're
as high as
right
7th
at the
place.
back part, well, pretty much at the back part of pit lane. So when you come in, you only have to pass like 2 cars, and that's it.
That
Well, 3
sounds-
cars, I guess.
Sounds like Paris on the radio to Anthony. That was actually a very good save. If he actually let that thing get out from under him, then he would have had a big shunt on the way down.
He was going quick at Bathurst, wasn't he?
And he's going quick. Marcus Ambrose.
Iguana's just come into
just
the pit lane.
Ambrose on it, isn't it? No
He's
doubt
up
about
behind
it.
Richards now. He's got damage on the car. Fortunately, only light damage. Tandis, Scaife, Sigton, Ingle, Perkins, Faulkner well placed at the moment. He's in the top 6. Paul Wheel. Queenslander just going out of shot there. This is the battle for 8th and 9th place. Tony Longhurst up to 10th. Now we're here for race control.
Stop go for Ambrose. How about that?
Stop go for Marcus Ambrose. No doubt as a result of that incident with David Bernard, I wonder.
Well, I imagine it would be because, you know, he's another competitor, and it was pretty clear that he just got into the back of him for whatever reason. So, but I don't know which would be the 2 worst penalties, having to face Ross or having to talk to the stewards.
Barks has a stop go as well, so I wonder what that's for.
Don't really know what's happened there with him, but obviously a lot of people are coming under close scrutiny for curb hopping, and if they're repeating the process, they're getting black flags for it. They've actually threatened in years gone by to be tough on this, and they tended to have gone a little bit soft in that area, but this weekend officials seem to be on top of them. This is the area in question. You can see why. If you pound straight through there, you can actually make some time.
Must be hot, sweaty work around here, Neil. Street circus, just by the nature of all these concrete walls, tend to trap the heat in, but inside that car it must be like a sauna.
It'd be very hot inside the cars and very busy. The other thing about street circuits is an enormous amount of wheel input. You never stop on the brake pedal, the gas pedal, the gear lever, and you get a huge feedback through the wheel.
Oh, dear me, Marcus.
Very aggressive.
Yeah, really. It's
4 laps remaining for race leader Garth Tander. The gap 2.3 seconds, so he's maintaining it. And here comes Ambrose.
It's funny how some weekends you just... Some weekends you can just end up out of rhythm, and you know, I mean, you look at Marcus out there today, and he just looks out of rhythm. He gives Stephen Richards one here.
Going, had everything locked up as well.
yeah.
And keep in mind, he already knew he was coming in for a stop-go penalty, so that's very
You
hard to
have
explain.
good days and bad days, don't you, really?
Limping down pit lane. You can hear Paul Forgy, his chief mechanic, on the headsets telling him where he had to serve the stop-go penalty. So he's gone right down the end of pit lane, where Ray Robbins will meter out his punishment. And gets the paddle pop, and away he goes. So it's not a good day for the Pertec team on the streets of Surfers Paradise. And then for the Stone Brothers team, because they've both been in trouble. This is the Honda Indy 300, the V8 Supercar Challenge. Tander's leading this one. Scaife, Glenn Seaton, Russell Ingle, Larry Perkins, John Faulkner, Paul Wheel, Stephen Richards. More after the break. She's on around the streets of the Gold Coast. Look at this. What an amazing charge from Greg Murphy in the Kmart Commodore. Started off the back of the grid. He is now nipping at the heels of the top 10. It's been an incredible charge. And look how clean and unscarred the car is, Baz.
Yeah, it's amazing when you think about it. He was absolutely on the last back row of the grid. And don't forget this afternoon there's another race. So it's I wonder if they'll be able to fix Lowndes' thing and Brad Jones's thing.
Not sure. He's actually up in the top 10 now. Been confirmed on the timing monitor. So Murphy, miraculous fight back in the Kmart Racing Commodore. Look at him bouncing over the curves there. Big cars, fuel and driver. You're getting up around 1,500 kilograms, trying to juggle about 600 horsepower through what are relatively narrow tyres for a car of this bulk and this power. 3 laps remaining for race leader. So Greg Murphy put in a very inspiring drive here. Here's the race leader though, Garth Tander, and Mark Scaife is starting to close the gap. was hovering around 2.1, 2.2 seconds. But I think Scaife is starting to really apply the blowtorch now.
Those two have really completely cleared out for everybody else. Enormous gap back to Glenn in third. And Mark is edging ever so closely to Garth. The closing stages of this one. Right about now, the tyres are pretty spongy and the brakes are not responding as they were in the opening couple of laps. So it's a question of how hard do you push without overdoing it. Looks to me as though Mark Scaife's extended and lengthened that gear lever in the Holden Racing Team car since Bathurst.
Here that Anthony Tratt, the guy who had the flat tyre, he's been given a black flag. I believe the officials are concerned about something mechanical on the car, not the tyre. There may be something that's a danger to other competitors on the track. Rusty?
I'm down here with Kmart Racing Chief Rob Crawford. You were looking on a little nervously, but Murph's managed to, I guess, climb up the order a bit.
Yeah, he's kept it off the wall and driven really smartly, and just hopefully no one gets in his way.
You guys who are a bit down the order in terms of the qualifying side of things, what happened there?
Yeah, we had a problem with the rear hub in Todd's car, unfortunately, and we had a bit of a brake vibration, which we really haven't got our hands on yet, but seems to be getting a lot better now.
Fingers crossed.
He is.
Yeah, a little bit down the field, the back row of the grid's a bit of a statement, isn't it? That's a great drive from Murph, isn't it? Incredible.
Great drive from Garth Tander too. It's been a long time since he's been dicing wheel to wheel with the Holden Racing Team. It's been a very, very difficult season for the Gary Rogers Motorsport camp. There have been accusations or thoughts, I guess, that maybe running the third car in the Konica Series this year was too much for the team to handle. Maybe that's just a coincidence, but Gary will drop his Konica program next year and concentrate purely on his 2 Shell Series entries. So hopefully the Gary Rogers operation will be back and competitive and really firing like they were in 2000. See the gaps opening up on the field here. Less than 2 laps remaining for the race leader.
Good run for Faulkner today.
Yeah, I was just going to say exactly that, yeah.
He's mixed in there between Stephen Richards and Larry Perkins, and he certainly got some benefit from that incident that happened at turn 3 on the opening lap.
Well, he's one of the true battlers of V8 Supercar. He really has been hanging on by his fingernails this year. Sponsorship hard to come by. He's found some backing for the final rounds of the championship this year. Unfortunately, his co-driver Peter Dullman caught up in a big accident on top of the mountain at the V8 Supercar 1000. Took them out pretty early. And Faulkner's doing a great job here. Look at this battle for the lead. 1 lap remaining, 4.5 kilometres the distance for Garth Tander, and he has proven a match for Mark Scaife so far. Scaife has been able to close the gap but not be able to challenge. Down the pit straight for the final time.
That fastest lap that Garth has done of 54.6 is about a second away from the lap record held by Craig Lowndes, which was set here last year on the Sunday.
Interesting, isn't it? Same tyres. Wonder what's changed. Any theories on that, Neil?
No, I haven't. Sometimes you just get unusual combinations of weather conditions. Remember that we didn't have a full day of champ car practice yesterday because of the rain-out situation. The track will be a little bit green. There's not a lot of rubber down, so it's almost like day 1 of practice in a sense, even though today's actually the first day of serious racing.
Victoria Bitter on board camera, riding with Mark Scaife. He's just about got the Shell Championship Series wrapped up. That'll be his 4th. Amazing reign of success Holden Racing Team and Mark Scaife are enjoying after that brilliant victory at Mount Panorama. So final time down through the Esplanade, through the WorldCom S's.
See the look on Garth Tander's face yesterday when he got the pole position and that. He was, I don't think I've seen anybody look so happy for ages.
Probably felt about 50 kilos lighter.
Oh, exactly.
Down to the Foster's chicane for the final time. Fords went out of this one early. That's Radisson.
Wow,
look at the amount of air Mark Scaife gets under the car. See, he's trying.
Isn't that a great shot looking down south along the edge of the coast there?
Incredible.
Up above that Foster's chicane. It's just a beautiful view.
And the nicest people live here as well.
Is that right?
Up Sarisia Avenue onto Hill Parade for the final time. Garth Tander has proved more than a match for Mark Scaife. Scaife has been pushing hard but just not able to close the gap to the Valvoline Cummins machine. This will be a nice way for this operation to end the year. I know it's not a championship round, but a huge morale lift for the boys in the Gary Rogers Motorsport stable. Here they come. Garth Tander will take victory. Mark Scaife in second. Glenn Seaton, if he stays where he is, will be the top place Ford, but they're 8, almost 9 seconds behind this leading pair, so they really did run away with it. Well done, Garth Tander. There's Seaton coming in third. Russell Ingall, fairly quiet, lonely race back there in 4th. Keep in mind, we have a Shell Championship round coming up in New Zealand in 2 weeks' time. It'll be uppermost in the mind of Mark Scaife, who hopes to wrap it up at Pukekohe. So, a very smart way to attack this race. Don't get involved in any fender bending or fisticuffs with anyone else. Keep the car nice and clean and straight. Last thing you want is logistical. But now there's a familiar face.
I recognised him.
Craig Lowndes is one of the boys. Look at that, sitting with the crowd there.
That's the great thing about Craig. I mean, he's very, very good for the sport.
Well, that's why he has such a fanatical following base. Very, very accessible. Look at this battle for the minor placings between Paul Romano, Paul Wheel and Marcus Ambrose, who's fought back from his stop-go penalty, and that'll put him in 18th place. So he'd probably be pretty disappointed with that. Let's check him out on the official Cellular One race score. Garth Tander just over, or just under a second. Hit at Mark Scaife, Glenn Seaton, the top place of the Fords in 3rd. Russell Ingall, Larry Perkins, John Faulkner, Stephen Richards, and Tony Longhurst did well in the Rod Nash machine to finish in the top 8.
Then we had Greg Murphy, Stephen Johnson, Todd Kelly, up from the back of the grid, Mark Larkham, David Bernard, Rodney Forbes, Jason Bargwanna, he made a tour to the pits, Paul Romano in 16th. And some of the guys on at the back of the field actually toured the pits several times.
I don't think I've ever seen such a spread out V8 race here.
That was quite amazing.
Let's have a look at this replay of the last lap. Look at the amount of air that Mark Scaife gets under this Holden Racing Team Commodore. Garth's effort was pretty good, but look at this. Next one. Garth's got 2 off the deck. Look at that.
That'll make a good photo somewhere. Somebody will have got that.
Generating plenty of grip. So the Honda Indy 300 V8 Supercar Challenge, 1 down. We've got more to come.